G'day and welcome to Stationeers. In this tutorial series, my aim is to help new players reach a level of survival where they have the time to explore the deeper game mechanics themselves, so that they can actually have fun with that discovery and understanding and learning without having the pressure of survival needs on top of it. Because that initial learning curve of getting to those basic survival needs being somewhat handled can be pretty rough, so let's try and make it a little bit smoother. There is a tutorial in the game which can be handy in terms of understanding the basic game mechanics in terms of inventory management, that side of things. But in terms of setting goals for yourself and actually getting yourself to survive, hopefully this will add a bit of extra information and make things a little bit easier. So let's go New World, and we're presented with a whole bunch of options here. These are all different start conditions, and for the most part, the ones near the top are a little bit easier. For new players, I would strongly recommend either going with the Moon or with Mars. In this case, we're going to go with Mars because I think it's just a teensy bit easier than the Moon, given that you've got a little bit of atmosphere to play with and grab some carbon dioxide from, so that you can set up your first greenhouse. So let's go. We got Mars. We'll click Create World. Completely vanilla settings, nothing customized. And this is what you are met with when you start the game, the Stationpedia. This is a very handy reference material for a lot of the different things in the game, and I tend to use it in tandem with the Stationeers wiki. But for now, let's close it. To close it, press Alt, move your mouse pointer up and close it, or if you want to reopen it later, you can press F1. F1 will also close it. Now, we are in a survival situation. That means we need to take stock of what we've got and think about the things we need to deal with first. In Stationeers, there are three key resources, so to speak. There is power, there is food, and there is oxygen/atmospherics. The reason I say /atmospherics is because oxygen isn't the only critical part of that loop. Of those three, I said them in the order that they run out. You will run out of power first. You will then almost certainly run out of food before you run out of oxygen. So we should probably deal with our power situation first. To improve our odds of survival in terms of power, let's press 3 and open up our suit. And let's reduce the target pressure and temperature to reduce the amount of energy that our suit is exerting to keep us alive. Over here on the right of our HUD, we have our target internal pressure, our target internal temperature, and we can drop those down a fair way. Let's drop our target down to 20. And when that happens, you'll see that our internal pressure drops. And now we get a warning. To get rid of that warning, let's just pop that up to 21. Similarly, let's drop our temperature down to 10. And it's daytime, so let's turn our light off with L. And that's going to conserve a bit more power as well. Our power in our suit is provided by the battery you have in this slot, which is currently a 96% charged large battery cell. We also have a waste tank in our suit, which holds our CO2, which is filtered through these filters, and an air tank, which is holding our oxygen. We have just increased the odds of our survival significantly, but I think it'd be a good idea for us to move on and get some more power input rather than just saving what we've got left. To do that, we're going to need to set up a small base. Inside these containers that are on your lander, these yellow ones in particular, you'll find a lot of construction materials. The first thing we need to grab is the stack of iron frames. So let's grab them out of there with left click. Move a little bit away so that we don't have the lander blocking any sunlight that's going to get onto our solar panels. Right click, and we can then place these blocks down. Bring it over to a little hill so it's easier to walk onto. Left click, hold, and we can place down a small 2x3 grid of these. When you look at the iron frame, it tells me that we need a welding torch and some iron sheets to continue construction. So let's grab some iron sheets, which are also in this container. There we go, we can grab and swap them out. And then we need to grab our welding torch. Our welding torch is in our tool belt, which is on 6. That is our welding torch right there. We want to put that in our right hand while we keep the sheets in our left hand. We can do that because this is a tool by swapping these two out. But if you are holding something other than a tool, which duct tape, cable, all count as tools, say these iron sheets, you wouldn't be able to swap them. So what we probably want to do is clear up a spot in our backpack. And the easiest thing to do that with is by dropping this portable solar panel on the ground, drag it out, and it'll drop. Then we can pop our duct tape in our backpack. Always keep some duct tape on you. It is critically important so that you can repair your suit if it ever gets damaged. Let's grab our welding torch, drag it across to our right hand. If we happen to have the wrong hand selected, press E to switch between them. And we can now turn our welding torch on with O and weld up this iron frame by clicking and holding it down. The iron frames have 3 different build states. There's the open one, where you and atmosphere will fall through it. There's this one, where you've welded up once, where you won't fall through it, but atmosphere will. And then you can weld it up again, and it becomes airtight. We don't need this little bit of our base to be airtight, so let's just weld these up once. Turn our welding torch off with O when we're done, because we don't want to run out the fuel. Wander back to our lander and grab our solar kit. We're also going to need these glass sheets. Let's swap them with our iron sheets. Our solar kit, let's place this thing down over here. Let's use the flat one. Ideally, we also want that little plus symbol you can see off to our right. To change its position, you can hold down C and use your scroll wheel, or you can use insert and page up to change the position of things. This works with all different blocks. You can use the 2 different methods. Sometimes one is better, sometimes the other is. Just experiment to find which one works for what you're doing. And we place down the solar panel. We now get the glass sheets and finish up the panel. The panel is currently generating 266 watts. So let's get those watts into a battery. The way we're going to do that is by grabbing this power controller out of here, popping it down and putting a battery in it. We want to put it down near that power output from the solar panel, but not right next to it. So let's rotate it so that the in arrow shows coming from the panel, and the out arrow goes off to the right. We'll go get rid of the spare one that we're carrying, grab a battery while we're over here, and we'll link them up with a little bit of wire. If this is around the wrong way, press C, just tap it, and it will try and align these in the most sensible way. And often it gets it right. Left click hold, and now we have power going from this solar panel to this power controller. We want to take advantage of it, so we need a crowbar to open it. We can then put a battery in it, but this battery's got 100% charge. We don't want to put it in it. Let's put our suit battery in. Swap these out, and then drag that into that slot, and then click the switch. And you can see this is now green and blue. That indicates that this battery is getting charge from this solar panel. 82 watts. A very small amount, but something is going across anyway. We're getting something. There we go. It just changed to red. That indicates that we are no longer getting any power from the solar panel, and this battery is now the only thing that would supply power past this area power control. And we want that because we want to put down a few things to make some more materials. We now have the most basic of power setups. We have a power source going into a battery, which can be used to power our suit and other devices. But what would be really nice is to be able to make more power. There are a few options in Stationeers for making power. I'm going to focus on solar in this tutorial series. The reason I'm going to focus on solar is because solar gains you power passively. That's really handy to allow you to have time to focus on other things. There are also means of making power using, say, your, where is it in here? Solar generator. The solar generator will generate power from coal. That means that you have to go out and mine the coal and, well, on Mars, you can definitely get by with just solar alone, and you don't need a lot of it. So rather than forcing us to have to mine for more coal constantly, let's just not use it, because we don't need it. In order to build some additional panels and build some other stuff, we're going to need to have a way to get the ores out of the ground, turn them into ingots, and then turn those ingots into stuff. The 2 initial pieces of equipment you need for that are an auto lathe and an arc furnace. Let's go pop them on our little mini base over here. Start with our arc furnace. This thing has 2 inputs and 2 outputs. The inputs are for power and for ores. The output is for ingot and is a data connection. Let's have the power on the left and the input on the left and place it down. Unlike these blocks that we place down, the arc furnace comes complete when you first place it. The auto lathe, which we're going to place down here, and let's spin it that way, it requires a bit of extra construction. Welding torch and 2 iron sheets. Welding torch. Let's go grab those 2 iron sheets. Weld it up as we did the other stuff. And now it is asking for 4 cable coils. Turn off our welder, grab our cable coils, pop them in. And now it wants plastic sheets and a welding torch. So we can grab them too. Once the plastic sheets are in, all it wants is a screwdriver to do the finishing touches. And we have ourselves an auto lathe. We now want to connect the auto lathe and the arc furnace to the area power control. And we want to connect them in such a way that we can use the battery power that's in this battery to run these even if we don't currently have sun. So we need to connect to, you can see just under there, the output. Grab your cable coils and connect up the arc furnace. To change the type of cable that you're working with, you can use your mouse scroll wheel. Let's change that to a corner. Press C and bring it out this way. Then straight, another corner, and then press C here, and it should, yep, go exactly where we want it. Yellow, when you're building with things like this, indicates that you can build and it's already connected to something on one end. Red means you can't build, and green obviously means you can build, but it's not connected to anything. Now, if I want to go and build my cables down to this auto lathe, I want to overlay this corner with a straight piece going this way. But it won't let me, unless I have cable in one hand and wire cutters in the other. Then I can. And that is a really handy thing, and one of the reasons why I have tried my best to develop a habit of, whenever I'm working with cable, also keeping the wire cutters in my hand. We don't need to hook up to this data port on the auto lathe, so I'm not going to. I'm going to save that little bit of cable. We'll just connect up to the power port. We now have both of these devices connected to a power source of that battery. And this is showing that we are now consuming a small amount of power by having them connected. Blue and red means we've got charge, but it's being used, so that battery is going to slowly deplete. And I guess we should probably go and find some ores. It doesn't take you getting very far from your base to not really be able to see it. Those lights do come in handy for finding your way home, especially if you use your jetpack, which you can turn on by pressing J and then fly up in the air. But unless you've got a very good sense of direction, and I do not, finding your way home to those might be difficult. There is a little device on your lander that can make that easier though. Where is the little beacon? Got a bunch more stuff in there. There we are. We have our tracking beacon, and it comes with a battery already fitted. So if we grab this tracking beacon and then drop it on the ground with Q, we can then switch it on. Oops. We can then switch it on. But it doesn't really do anything. What we need is our handheld tablet. Drag it into our left hand, press R to open it up. And now you can see it's got a battery slot and a cartridge slot. Let's put the tracker cartridge in. If I now turn it on, it now indicates where that tracking beacon is. So I will be able to find my way home. Well, even I'll be able to find my way back home. My sense of direction is awful. So let's go mining. Let's switch out our tool belt for our mining belt. Drag our mining belt onto number 6 there. And then press 6 and we'll open it up. You've got these slots for ore and these 2 mining tools. We're going to use the mining drill because the pickaxe, so slow. Drag that into our hand. We have some lead there. We don't really need lead. What we need to get going here is going to be some iron, some copper, and some gold. The reason we want those, you can see if we turn on our auto lathe, press our find recipe button, and go down to kit electronics printer. We want to build that so that we can build solar panels. And to build that electronics printer, we need 20 grams of iron, 2 grams of gold, and 10 grams of copper. If you move your mouse down to this I button down here, it'll show the contents of the auto lathe, which is currently nothing, because we haven't got anything yet. So let's go get some things. Searching for iron, gold, and copper. At night, which is definitely harder, but there's not much else we can do right now, so we've got that beacon switched on, which means we will be able to find our way back home, and hopefully we'll at least find some of those resources tonight. If you come across coal, probably worth getting a little bit of that, but here we go. This is iron. When you point at it, you can see, but like so many of the tools, we need to turn this on with O, and then we can drill it. When you're drilling, you'll see that little mine iron thing flash up. that can help you find where in your hole that you've dug you might be able to find more resources than what you're currently looking at. A handy tip for early mining is to leave one of the nodes visible on the surface. Don't mine all the surface stuff, unless there's only one of them, in which case, well, sometimes you'll just have to. The reason to leave that on the surface is to indicate that you have a mine with that mineral in this site. So when you come back, you can go, oh, that's right, this is an iron mine. Let's go dig down in it rather than continuing to search for some more. I'm going to collect about 100 iron, and then we'll move on and try and find some copper and some gold. Because the iron won't be much use to us without those as well. There we are. Beautiful Martian sunrise. Oh, that is gold. Let's drill some of that. That'll do for gold for now. And we need copper. Let's get a bit of altitude and see if that makes it easier to find them. Sometimes it will. Oh, I think that might be coal. Yeah, let's grab some coal as well. As far as I can tell, there is no particular pattern to where minerals appear. Hills versus flat ground, that sort of thing. That looks promising for copper. Oh yeah, that's copper. There we go. Grab that and then we can head on home. Alright, got 99 copper. That should do us quite nicely. And while I can see home, you can imagine how difficult that would be to spot if this was at night time. And that is why we turned that beacon on, because I can easily just pop this handheld tablet in my hand, and the tracking beacon will tell me that way is home. If you would prefer to not use the Alt mouse click thing as often, you can actually use your mouse scroll wheel to highlight different things over on the left here. And then you can switch between your active hand and that highlighted slot with F. Sometimes that's easier, sometimes it's not. Excellent. We are home, and if we have a look, this battery in the area power control is fully charged. So let's swap it with our suit one, which only has 61% and can continue to get some power from this solar panel before the sun sets. Or at least it would if we weren't going to smelt some ores. Turn on the arc furnace. Now it's showing green. Pop some ore in. Click the button. And it will show us that we are currently smelting iron, and it is getting through it. It's gone through about 8 grams so far. Wait for that to pop out, and then we can pop it in the auto lathe. I can see gold from my base. There was no way I could see that at night. That is one of the disadvantages in going hunting for ores at night, but obviously when there was nothing else for me to do on the base, it was probably worth doing. There we go, it is finished. It spits out the iron. Oh, it's dropped it off the side. That's a reason not to place that right on the edge like I did. Pick up the iron ingot and pop it into the auto lathe. Now when we come around here, you'll see it says we have 50 grams of iron in it, and we now only need the gold and the copper to build that electronics printer. Let's turn that off. We don't need it to be on at the moment. Let's pop some copper in and smelt it. Copper is going to take a lot longer to smelt in the arc furnace than the iron did. Gold is going to take a lot longer again, and silicon further, and that'll be why you'll start investing in building more advanced furnaces in the future, which we will obviously get to in the future. If you ever become impatient like I'm becoming right now, and you want to stop smelting something that's in process, simply turn it off. It will finish the current gram. It will then open up and show us the ore on this side, and we'll have our ingot of copper down on the ground on this side. We've got 28 grams, which is all we need right now. So I'm going to swap that out for the gold ore. Turn it back on, and start smelting the couple of grams of that I need. That way I can get the electronics printer up and start working on it while I process some of these ores in the background, rather than me standing here twiddling my thumbs. One of the things I didn't mention before...
Caution.
Ooh, and there we go. I am hungry. Let's go grab a bar of cereal from the crates over here. In the green crates, you will have your organic supplies, which have a bunch of flowers and some cereal bars in that one. And this one has all of our things for growing more food, as well as a couple of cereal bars as well. Unless you get really desperate, try not to eat these foods yet. You want to grow them and multiply the number of them you have, rather than eating them and being left with no ability to grow more. So we'll grab our cereal bar, pop it in our hand, and right-click to eat it. On the highest difficulty level, you will have to actually take your helmet off in order to eat. On lower ones, you can just magically eat through your suit. I definitely recommend for new players to eat through your suit. Ah, I forgot to turn my beacon off. Look how low that battery's getting. Let's turn it off, grab that battery, and we'll see if it gets any charge in that little portable panel there. In this container, there's another battery, so we'll pop that in the top so that we've got some charge in that beacon if we decide to wander off and go mine some minerals. We should have had enough gold processed by now. Yep, we got 17 grams. Oh, God, really need to build another frame there. Pop that into our auto lathe. Turn this back on, continue processing the rest of the gold, and now we have enough iron, gold, and copper to make the electronics printer. So let's do it. This is going to use up a fair bit of power. Hopefully our battery cell will last. Well, if it doesn't, we're going to have to wait till morning, and we probably won't be doing much more work with the arc furnace. But I think we're going to be okay. There we go. It's produced it. Let's stop it from producing another one, because we do not want to, and we can turn that off. Grab our electronics printer kit, and we'll pop it down over here, facing the auto lathe. Like the auto lathe, we're going to need to weld it up with some iron sheets, some cable, and some plastic sheets. Let's get that done. So I've got my iron sheets, and I want to weld up this printer, but I've got my mining belt on. My preference is actually to leave my mining belt on. The reason you want to wear your mining belt is that when I was drilling with this drill, it automatically put these ores into the belt. If I'm not wearing the belt, that doesn't work. The tool belt, on the other hand, can be accessed in almost an identical fashion to when we're wearing it by pressing the button where these 4 little squares are. There we go, we've got our tool belt. So I can close my mining belt, and it's like I'm wearing the tool belt. It doesn't make any big difference to me, so I tend to prefer to leave it this way and just access my tools that way. With the electronics printer, do the same we did with the auto lathe. Turn it on, and let's search for the recipe we want. There are a whole lot of different recipes in this one, but what we really, really want is the kit all the way down here, solar panel. That's going to require us to have 10 grams of iron, 5 of gold, and 20 of copper. Let's pop the gold that we're carrying in there, and we can also take the materials that are in the auto lathe out. It's currently got 30 iron, 15 gold, and 18 copper. If we want that out, turn it on, pull this lever, and it'll spit them out the backside. Like so. Close the lever, turn it back off. We can pick those up and pop them in the electronics printer, saving us from needing to smelt much more. In fact, we are only short of the copper. We've got enough of the other 2 materials in order to build at least 1 solar panel. And these solar panels are better than these flat ones, because the solar panel kits that we're about to build, they... Uh-oh, I think we just ran out of power. They can be moved to other directions and orientations to follow the sun and gain even more power. So I could either wait till the sun rises to get some power back in here, or I can go grab a battery from somewhere else. Make sure all the equipment's turned off except for the one that I need. I might be able to get enough power from either the battery that's in this beacon, or there's another battery in one of these. Yep, there we go. Grab that small battery. Just temporarily use it to get our little bit of power we need. Pop it in there. Let's make it solar panel. In fact, we might even be able to make 2. Turn that off. We can pick up these 2 solar panel kits. Might actually need a little bit more base to put them down, so I'm going to extend this out a little bit that way. And since I've got a little bit of space in these containers now, I'm going to put a few of these bits and pieces that I don't need, like the flares. I'm unlikely to use the e-reader anytime soon, and that's going to allow me to carry a little bit more stuff on me without having to drop everything back in here so quickly all the time. If the sun's rising over there, it's going to set over there. Ideally, what we would want is to have clear line of sight to both horizons and throughout the day for these solar panels. I didn't quite line up my base correctly for that, but it's not going to be too bad because that mountain's going to block things before any of this equipment will. Now that I've got my solar panels in my right hand, I can right click and place them down. There are 2 modes with these solar panels. One has both the data and power port coming off the same side, and the other has them separated. We want them separated. I'm going to point the power toward me, place one there, place another one here, And now I need to, like the other one, grab a couple of glass sheets and finish those off. If you're playing with research enabled, this is probably one of the first things I would recommend you researching towards. Getting these solar panels will dramatically change your power needs and your power setup and be worth every bit of effort to get to quickly. Now that we've got those 2 panels, let's hook them up to our area power control. And also let's put this empty battery in there to get a little bit of charge. There we go. So cable coil, get those iron sheets into our backpack, grab our wire cutters, and from here let's start. There we go, hooked up. Right now they're not being any better, or not being much better than this flat one on the ground. The way to fix that, at least for now, is to grab the wrench and spin them around. By using the wrench on these lower bits, we can rotate the panel. And on these upper bits, we can flip it up and down to try and optimize the angle to the sun. The reason I'm rotating this to minus 90 degrees is that the sun is going to go over us like this, and these are rotated such that up and down would have spun the other way. So there we go. We have far better solar panels, and we have a lot more power going into that battery. But I wouldn't really want to have to manually control these all the time. I don't want to have to stand here all day, changing the angles, matching the sun, and moving it through. So what we're going to look at next time is how we can automate this. How we can set up a very basic solar tracking system using logic chips. Things that will use a sensor to pick up where the angle of the sun is and adjust these panels accordingly. If you've got any tips or tricks of your own to add to what I've said in this tutorial, please share them in the comments, as I'm still learning. I'd love to hear them too. And as I said, next time, a simple solar tracking setup. So there's all that and plenty more to come, and I will see you then.